It's interesting because we've seen all this week the discussion being that now people are digging on Mahomes, right? And we all know he's the alien, but what is the eye test versus what is his output? And his output has been historically great. But then you dig into all the variations and stuff, and how does he do versus cover 6 versus when it's man free? And what people are finding as they dig into the metrics is he is the greatest person who's ever thrown footballs against zone coverage in the blitz. And then when you just play man coverage, he's kind of league average. But I think, and so everyone goes back to what did the Colts do? What did the Lions do? And as you're saying, can it be a blueprint? What I thought was interesting is they did somewhat drastically different things, right? The Lions in itself is a fun X's and O's matchup because we've discussed the Lions. It was at the first week of the show, and now people are catching on to us here. Yeah. Just how many different things they can present you with on the front end, on the back end, and then just that overall chess match, Patricia versus Andy Reid, as two really just, in terms of pure schematics and thinkers of the game, that is, you're getting into the top company there. I know people bag on Patricia all the time. In terms of just defensive minds and what you can draw up and then how you can enact it on a field, we're talking about some of the best people here doing this. So that was always going to be fascinating, just like almost the post-snap movement of the ball and the coverage, depending on where Mahomes would throw the ball. And they ran a bunch more trap stuff. They rolled a lot more than the Colts did. Where if you watch the Colts and Eberflus, that was more so like a got ya thing, right?
They were cooking.
Patricia they did creative, funky stuff that was like out of the box, out of the ordinary. They'd ran the double spy, I think 8-9 times, something like that, which, I mean, you're just never going to see outside of high school, right? The double spy. Yeah. And that's one of those ones where you throw it in a playoff game and it freaks someone out. Kind of like when the Chargers ran their three safety package all of last year in a playoff game. Like, it can get you 1 week, right? And usually you roll that out in the playoffs or a big matchup. What the Colts did was more sustainable because they basically play cover 2, cover 6, and cover 4 all game. Like, they just play quarters and they rally to the ball, and they are based on speed and fundamentals and all the kind of the coach cliche words. And Eberflus was going to basically too deep his way to a head coaching gig, then face Mahomes and played man coverage. So it was like in the moment, got you. You didn't expect this, haven't seen it on film, look at this. Do you know what I mean? Like, it was more of a completely shifting of their philosophy as opposed to Patricia's was just great in the moment play-to-play scheme design against what was overlaid offensive scheme design and then throwing out funky things that he would never draw up against anyone else.
Yeah, well, what I would say is Patricia, from what I saw of the All-22 as well, is he would make sure he would always have more DBs on the field than receivers to start with. They played a load of crazy man. A couple of times when they were going man, obviously Mahomes, everyone had their back to the ball, and he rushed, 3-4 times for 20 yards?
Yep.
And then, as you say, they put the double spy on him. You had, I think it might have been Deshaun Hand literally walking his pass rush. It was like one of the craziest things I've ever seen.
Yeah, there's no schematics or credit for that. That was lazy. That was a terrible play.
But you go from that to the Colts. The thing is with the Colts as well, it also helps when you get pressure every time with just your front four.
Yes.
Everyone's talking about these secret blueprints, what they're doing. Yes, obviously they came in with an excellent game plan, but they also were killing the Chiefs line up front.
This is where I disagree, though, and what's funny is about one team winning versus one team not. I thought the Lions came with an excellent game plan, and Mahomes is an alien. And Mahomes is a guy where, let's put the double spy on this play and we can take him in the pocket and then he can test the throws because we got some pressure off his left side. And then the next time we come down, let's just play, man free. And all of a sudden he's scrambling away because, like you said, all our backs are turned. That to me was an excellent game plan. They just played a freak. The Colts was like, it was a good game plan in so much as, hey, this week let's just play all man and let's see if we can win our matchups. And they just played better than the Chiefs did.
Oh, yeah. No, I do agree with that. But just everything came perfectly for the Colts here. And I mean, you got Marlon Mack looking like Le'Veon Bell behind the best half of an offensive line I think you'll see in a good few years. Mm-hmm. I mean, that performance was just unbelievable. I mean, everyone loves Quentin Nelson, but they don't forget the guy next to him. So those guys did an unbelievable job. There was a stat in like the second half where the Colts had, for the first 20 minutes of the second half, Colts had the ball for 17 minutes. I mean, everyone talks about time of possession. Obviously, it's important. But when it's that drastic, you're obviously going to have a good chance to win the game. We also need to remember that Patrick Mahomes is still really, really, really good.
Yeah.
the media seems to suddenly be bashing him because the Chiefs lost a game. Well, it doesn't help when your left tackle stands on your already wrecked ankle. I mean, it doesn't help when your line can't block. The guard, they've already cut him. He came in, didn't he?
Yeah.
And he posted a Garrett Bradbury 0 passer rating on his 15 snaps. So it was a disaster up front for the Chiefs. But Mahomes still nearly did enough and could have done enough to win it. So
definitely had chances. To me, I look at it as what is sustainable moving forward. And I think that saying that our game plan this week is we're going to play man-free and with just 4 rushers we're going to crush the offensive line is not like a game plan. It's like
that's the most fundamental football, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like that would be brilliant. Yeah, that Giants team in 2007, that was their game plan every week, and it was brilliant. Yeah, remember that Broncos team with Von Miller and they dragged Peyton Manning's corpse to a Super Bowl? Yeah, when you can do it, it's amazing. Only run that. It's all you need to run. We give Wade Phillips all kind of accolades when you can run that one, when he's got Hall of Famers galore. But I thought what Patricia did was more sustainable. The issue with that in terms of sustainability at the NFL level is they're all changing week to week. Patricia had a great game plan for the things Reed was throwing at him based on down and distance, based on tendencies, based on just his reading of the situation. And we always talk about offensive sequencing, right? Like one play call setting up the next play call, and can you have play calls off your old play calls? And a basic one is like an end around, then becomes a reverse at the same personnel grouping, or the slant that becomes the sluggo, and are you ready for it, and all that stuff. The same happens defensively. It's like not getting caught out by that stuff and knowing that this time it's a fake, or knowing that this time it's the same personnel grouping, it's the same setup, but they do slightly different wrinkles off of this every time. And then also just the RPO stuff. There's nothing sustainable about defending an RPO because on paper they're running 3 different things. So the next time around, no matter what you do, you might not be able to defend it. I just thought the way that they played their brackets in Detroit was indicative of how great their secondary is. And the only thing that comes out of that, aside from having a great defensive play-calling sequencer to match up with Andy Reid, which would be Belichick or Patricia or someone down the line, Mike Zimmer, would be having an awesome secondary. That is the takeaway. Yeah. If you have an awesome secondary, guys who can peel off, who can play read and react defense, not in kind of the cliche read then, funnel and hit defense, as in we have option coverages, the same way an offense has option routes, as you would when you top a post like the Patriots do, and they run their cone coverage, which is a rotating basically at any time the 2 of us could occupy 2 spaces, we must work together, and that's happening in the blink of an eye, and it's really hard to figure out offensively, and it's almost impossible to figure out defensively unless you're a wizard, which those defensive backs in Detroit and New England appeared to be. You need those things, and that's really hard to find.
Yeah, don't tell the Baltimore Ravens that. God.
Oh my Lord.
Trying to play that option coverage, and you can see what happens when it doesn't go to plan by watching that tape. But back to the linesman Patricia, is something I noticed as well watching the All-22 is that obviously they had less players in the box than they would like, but you're playing the Chiefs, so you have to sacrifice somewhere. They had Trey Flowers and Snacks Harrison occupying like the B gap. They had no one really under centre. And yeah, Trey Flowers is almost playing as a run stuffer all game, but he had to for the entire scheme to work. Otherwise, they would have just gashed him in the run game. So that was really interesting to see. They were daring him to run straight down the middle. Yeah, that was something I wasn't really expecting. Is that something that teams can take, or are the Chiefs just going to look at that film like we have and being like, well, we're going to run it straight up the centre's arse?
It's funny you say that. Do you know Cody Alexander?
Yes.
The guru of online defensive schematic stuff, a genuine coach who was at Baylor back in the shameful Bryles days, but was on the defensive side of the ball and was a grad assistant and not involved in any chicanery. But just wonderful guy and one of the best guys around because he writes, but he's really a coach, and he only writes very rarely, like once a month, when he actually has something to say, would you believe? That's a thing some people do, is he just follows trends and interesting things. And so I was talking to him the other day, and I was asking him about this thing with the Packers, which I'm not sure if you noticed, where they're playing everyone a gap down than what would be the scheme you would like to run in reality. And they're basically doing this to, like you're saying, we forfeit the run game. That's yours, no problem. Passing is the only thing that matters to us, and let's get pressure on the quarterback. And what we've seen from the Packers this year, they're leading everything in all categories of rushing the passer, moving the launch point, pressure rate. We're all writing articles about the history of the Smith brothers, right? This is just what we're doing now. Because Petin has decided, F all that run game stuff. That's cool. Have 7 yards if you want on the run game, and we'll just crush you in the passing game. And I do wonder if we're going to see this more and more, where we went to kind of these split fronts where you would have the 4 NASCAR package where the 2 guys would kick to the B gaps. You'd have 2-3 techniques. You'd have 2 wider guys. I just think that we're going to get wider and wider fronts, and we're just going to start saying that guy, that's all yours. And the way we'll attack that is probably stunting and running games, or just having a freak of nature who can get across that face in the same time it would take anyway than if he was just plugged in the A gap and he was a league average player. I think we're going to see teams widen and widen their fronts, and that's just the way it's going.
I mean, yeah, that makes a ton of sense, and especially if you're a team with, say, you got Darius Leonard or Luke Kuechly behind you, where you can trust them to make the play if they go straight up the middle. So
that's exactly right. Would you rather have league average guy plopped in the A gap, or just forfeit the 5 yards and have Luke Kuechly run down, read, and make the play, but you have a passing advantage if they were to throw the ball? I think I would take B.
I mean, that seems like a no-brainer, doesn't it? If only... Maybe it is that easy. We'll find out. But,
I wanted to ask you, because you reminded me when you mentioned the Colts offensive line then, have you been recently through Notre Dame's 2014 offensive line? The 2014 offensive line of the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Would you like a reminder of who was on that team?
Oh my God. So you got Ronnie Stanley.
Yeah.
Zach Martin. Nelson, was he a rookie?
Nelson was a freshman.
Yeah, freshman, sorry. McGlinchey,
yeah.
Oh, I'm doing good here. Who am I missing?
Those are the 4 household names. Nick Martin, the brother, was the senior then.
Oh, shit, yeah.
But they also have, and I just realised I forgot this, and I'm not sure if it's the right one, but it could just be, he may have transferred, Colin McGovern. Or is it Connor McGovern is the Missouri
Connor
one?
McGovern.
Connor McGovern, okay. So Connor's cousin, Colin, was also
There's
on that
some
team.
bloodline in there. They can play.
You still cannot. Can you do better than that?
I mean, that is legitimately them at that age, or the Bengals.
That is genuinely the next 10 years of great offensive line play in the NFL was playing on that 2014 Fighting Irish team. Let's check their record with Malik Zaire and Deshaun Kaiser. Remember Deshaun? Oof. Let's just have it. Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Oof. 8-5. Oh man, Brian Kelly. Brian Kelly, man.
Those are the days.
Music City Bowl. Woof.
Oh man. Right, you got anything else to add on these Chiefs?
No. Let's move on.